Today we are working on the dump truck. It ain't pretty. I like to think of it as my Sanford and Son truck, but anyway, it's an old 71 Chevy, and I'm working on the sloppy shifter, and I've already kind of torn this apart, and I want to kind of show what we're looking at here. So you can see how that comes off of there. Pretty simple, just a few screws. Anyway, you can look at it and tell it already doesn't look right because it's got a bolt in here and it's got a long roll pin sticking out that side. So I've already started kind of working on it. So I was going to show you what I'm doing here. I'm trying to take up the slop in the shifter. So you can see how that just, you push it down and twist it to the left and it'll slide right off. And there's a little cup that comes off and then a spring. It's real simple. So as you can see, I've already started working on it, but what happens is those things are just slopping around, and it's got a roll pin that just pushes through that cast iron case, and they wear out. And to get this out, you just lift it straight up, and you can see how nasty this dump truck is. It ain't winning any beauty contests, that's for sure. But anyway, you can see how those are kind of slopped out on each side. The other thing that happens to them is this little thing on the end, the little tang that hangs down. It's designed to move around a little bit, but you can see how that one is really slopped out. And the other thing that happens is this cup, this ball, has got a tack weld right there, one on each side, and those break loose. So what happens, or what guys do, and what I'm going to do, is several things. But one, some people recommend just replacing that roll pin, but I've seen where other guys just weld this solid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of find the happy medium, and I'm going to weld that solid around there, and then I'm going to add some weld around this. And I'm going to be careful not to get it up onto this ball area, because that's where it kind of slides around inside of that cast iron case. So the other thing that happens, and somebody had this long dowel pin, that one was already in there, or roll pin, and the other roll pin that was on this side was the original one, and it was broken. It was actually, it come out in two pieces. So what I did is I just tapped this one. I just took the hole is already a 5/16 diameter hole, and I just used a 3/8 16 tap, and I just run it on the end of my little ratchet. Let me see if I can find that other one. Yeah, so here's the tap, and I didn't even enlarge the hole or anything. I just ran this tap in there, and I used a ratchet with a little socket on the end of it. That way, because it's hard to get a T-handle in there, and I just threaded that, and I was careful, and I put a magnet. As I was threading the tap through so I could catch any chips that might fall. I also had a little rag down in the bottom too. I shoved a rag in there. So anyway, I just wanted to show that. That's how I'm fixing it. And on this particular bolt, I actually ground it just down just a little tiny bit. Let me pull that out. Show you what I'm talking about. Be careful so I don't drop it. So you can see that I just took a Dotco, I ground it off to the length, and I measured the roll pin that came out of there, and it was 3/4 of an inch long, and I measured this thickness with a pair of calipers, and this is right at 3/8, literally just right on the money, 3/8. So I went and made my bolt 3/4 of an inch from where the head sits on there, and I'm going to clean this up good with some brake cleaner, and I'm going to put some Loctite on this bolt. But anyway, I was just now test fitting it, and it seems to work pretty good. All right, so I wanted to kind of show what I'm doing here. This is the roll pin that came out of there, and like I say, it was just split in half. But I measured the roll pin, and it's right at 3/4 of an inch. But what I did is I found a 3/8 16 bolt. This is an old header bolt with a small head, but it'll work. You got to find one that's threaded all the way down, because you're going to thread this all the way up to the seat right here. And what I did is I just laid it down to where that 3/4 was, and I just marked this with a Sharpie. And then I always thread a nut on there. This one might be a little tight since it's slightly galded on that one side. And I thread the nut on, and then I bring it up to where my Sharpie mark was, which was right in that area. And you can kind of double check it and see. Just making sure that I'm right at 3/4, and you can measure it with a pair of calipers as well, just to double check. But yeah, just a little more. So that's right at about 3/4. And then what I do is I bring it over to my vise area, and I'll clamp it in. Okay, I knew my battery was getting low last time, so I just cut this off. I keep it flush with the nut. All right, I take it down flush, and it's going to be hot, so I'm going to use some pliers to hold it. And then when you take the nut off of there, you know, you kind of correct those threads a little bit, and if you have some gloves, you can, because I know that nut's going to be hot. And it's actually not too bad. It's a little warm. Anyway, so there's that, and then I will dress the end of that and kind of smooth up them threads a little bit, but I'll go test fit it and make sure it's the right length. All right, so what I'm doing now is I've got the shifter clamped in here, and the idea is to get this nut, and I went ahead and put the nut all the way down on the bolt because I'm only going to grind this outer edge, and I want to get this to where it kind of fits in there pretty good. So I just lightly hit it. It's better to do it if you have one of these little die grinders. This is a Milwaukee one, and I love this one, battery operated. If you use your bench grinder, you'll tend to take off too much. And what I'm trying to do, see, when it slides in, it's got to go past this area. And then here's the loose spot. See, right now it fits into that loose spot. Now I could go in there and weld that up and regrind it, but again, this is just an old dump truck that I barely use. So if I was driving it every day, I would do more work to this. But for what I'm trying to do, this is going to be just fine for this old worn out truck. Yeah, you can see it's going to be a little bit tight right in there. The idea is it's just got to slide past this tight spot But again, this is down at the bottom, so the bolt is only sticking through a little bit. Yeah. In reality, I probably will grind a little bit out of this just to make it even. Because what I really want is I want that to be able to slide past, because see, it fits there. So I just want it to slide past. Let me get a better angle and I'll show you what I'm talking about. See, it's nice and tight right here, but it's loose up here at the top, and I need this to slide past. And you can see that it's tapered right here, so the bolt is I only got to grind the tip of the bolt just to get past this tight spot, and then once it gets up here to the top, that's where it's going to rest when it's done. All right, so I got it where it'll slide all the way past that, and then it fits nice and snug up here at the top. So I'm gonna go put it in the truck and test fit everything. So another thing, as I was trying to weld this, you can't get the grease out of it. I tried to get the grease out of it. I used brake cleaner, thinners. Anyway, so I finally took a torch and I burned it to heat it up to try to burn away some of that grease, because as I was trying to weld that right in there, it was not working very good. Now I was able to weld that end. That welded pretty good, but down here there was a lot of leftover gear oil. Anyway, just a little word of warning. You're probably better off to preheat that with a torch, or unless you got a good way to clean it really good. Anyway, I'm gonna let it cool just a little bit, and then I'm gonna finish welding it. All right, so I got it all welded up. I went ahead, like I said, and welded this thing solid. It's still a little warm, so anyway, that's not the best weld, but I used my wire feed. And then this weld up here, I welded it all the way around, and you got to be careful not to get, it doesn't matter if you have too much weld on the side, but if you got too much weld in the back or the front, because I went and test fit it, and I had a little bit of weld sticking up, and it wouldn't go into first and third gear very well. And I thought it was this, that I had that at the wrong angle, but that wasn't it. I just had a little too much weld right here, so I had to grind that weld off the back and the front. The sides were okay, but I went ahead and just ground it all the way around. So in other words, you just can't have too much weld sticking up where this ball meets the shaft here. Anyway, I'm going to go test fit it and see how it works. So we will test fit this. And again, I went ahead and put all that on there, but you can see how it drops in, and I had to have these screws out a little bit to get it to go in. But once it's in, we can tighten these screws up. And this, you got the spring, the other cup, and this one just sometimes it's a little bit tight, and the reason is because these bolts are a little bit bigger. You know, this was designed for a 5/16 dowel pin, but I had it on earlier, so I know it'll go on there. So you push down and turn it. Oh yeah, that feels a lot better. Look at that. Just a little bit of play. Goes into all the gears. Yep. That's way better. Yeah, feels good. See, before I couldn't get it into first very well because it had a little bit of that weld I had to grind down. Anyway, I would say that's a success. Feels 100% better.